So I asked him a hypothetical question. If I wired you 100 grand right now, today, and you never had to pay it back, what would you do with your business? And he didn't even think about it for a split second. He said, I'd shut it down overnight. Now, here's what you need to understand. This guy's 26 years old. He owns several storage facilities. He's wholesaled 5 storage facilities, has a successful wholesaling and fix and flip operation. On paper, he's got everything most people are chasing. So, why is the most successful version of himself the one that's quietly drowning? And that's what we're getting into today. His name is Nick Zachgo, and we got connected through a mutual friend who's part of the Storage Wins community and one of our Storage Wins ambassador. And Nick is 26 years old. He's got 2 little girls. Faith and family are most important. They're at the center of it all. And so there's a lot of similarities. And it's one of the reasons he came to me, even though we don't really have much of a relationship or a friendship yet. And again, Nick is somebody who owns a storage portfolio. He went full cycle with a few storage facilities. He's wholesaled several. He's not a beginner, and he's not failing. He's tired. He's burnt out. You see, Nick has built a wholesaling business that can't run without him. And every time he hires somebody, he gets sucked back in. He's not deciding whether to walk away. He's already decided. He just hasn't actually ripped the Band-Aid off. And he came to me because I sat in that same exact seat, in that same exact situation over 5 years ago when I spent 14 years in the residential space, primarily wholesaling single family homes. And it got to the point where I got burned out with the business. I no longer wanted to be in the business that I had spent years creating. And he asked me if I would coach him and if I was willing to share with him my insight and perspective. And I said, 100% absolutely. But I just have one ask for you. I said, Nick, you'd be surprised how many people come to me to this day. And it's been over 5 years ago that I made that decision. In fact, it's been closer to 6 years. And I said, you'd be surprised how many people reach out to me asking me for my insight and perspective and how in some cases, how I had the courage to just rip off the Band-Aid and shut down a successful business. What led me to that point? In fact, and I'm not even kidding you, I should screenshot this and remove the gentleman's name, but I literally, so I'm recording this at 5:48. Check this out. At 5:34 p.m., and this is going to be flashed on the screen, hopefully if my video editor sees this, I have somebody who I don't know message me. I know you were into the residential real estate investing arena. Why the change of heart? What triggered you to make the move from residential to self-storage facilities? On a monthly basis, I have people reaching out to me about this. And so I asked him, I said, I'm willing to share with you however I can help you, whatever you need, but let's record it. Let's document it because I believe it'll help other people. And he was like, to his credit, he's like 100%, let's do it. So if you've ever built something that's working, but you realize that it's running you instead of you running it, this one's for you. By the end, Nick is going to have, you'll see how he's got a real 90-day path to freedom. And depending on your situation, how you can run the same math on your own business. So Nick, I appreciate you for trusting me with this, brother. And with that being said, let's dive right into it. Nick, what's up, brother? I am, I'm looking forward to this conversation. I know, just to kind of set the stage, and I just touched on it in the intro that people heard, but you and I spoke, I want to say 2 or 3 days ago, and we got connected through a mutual friend. And it's interesting, as you started to share with me kind of the season that you find yourself in and you trying to decide, hey, should I let go left? Should I go right? Should I double down? It brought me back to the very same thing that I feel you're going through is what I was experiencing back in 2019 and the beginning of 2020, right before COVID. And so, man, I feel like I invited you, in full transparency for everybody listening and watching, I invited you to record this conversation. Number one, I want to help you, obviously. Number two, I think this will be helpful and beneficial for others because ever since I made that decision, Nick, and I know that you know a little bit about my story, we won't really get into it. A lot of people have come out and said, man, Alex, like what you shared resonates. Like I'm kind of feeling the same thing. And if you're not in a season where you're feeling what Nick is about to share, then you might find yourself. And then maybe this is a resource that you can refer back to. So with that being said, here's what how I'd love to kick off the conversation. What is the magic wand scenario for you from this conversation? Like, what are you hoping to get out of this, the next 45 minutes, hour that we spent together?
I'm trying to figure out how to transition out of single family houses into storage full time buying. Um, like I know the storage is the end destination. I already own a couple facilities, and I'm trying to figure out how to ultimately like exit or wind down the single family
Okay.
wholesaling and ramp up on uh, buying self storage facilities, wholesaling self storage facilities. I've already done some wholesale deals on storage,
Okay.
so yeah, just trying to figure out like what I need to do in order to wind down, or if I just abruptly halt, totally stop single family, only go after storage. So yeah.
Okay. Okay, perfect. No, that's super helpful. And just so that people have a little bit more understanding, I heard you say you own two storage facilities right now.
Yeah, so it's a portfolio of three of them, and then we sold off three of them last year. So we went kind of full cycle. We owned it for 20 months and doubled the value on it. Bought it in 23, sold it last year, beginning of last year, and so I've kind of seen the other side of like coming
What's possible?
around and yeah, what's possible, making
Yep.
a ton of money on a deal, and just trying to do more of that. But at the same time, still be able wholesaling it pays bills, day in and day out, and just
Hmm.
while trying to ramp up cash flow. The way I look at it is there's either equity plays or cash flow plays, and you know maybe little of both,
It
right?
could be a hybrid, right?
Um, so yeah.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, so let me just ask you. I thought I heard you say how to transition out of wholesaling and into storage full time. If I heard that right, did you already come to the conclusion that one way or the other you want to transition out of wholesaling? The question is how and when.
Yeah, so in kind of a background, I've been wholesaling for the last since 2019, so the last 6 7 years.
Okay.
And in 2022, I was working as doing acquisitions for another guy, and I decided, okay, we sold our house. I knew I wanted to get out of single family, and so we sold our house, made a bunch of money, and then for like the next year, I only focused on storage. That was my only focus. We bought the portfolio, the six properties all together in 2023, and then I basically kind of ran out of cash at the end of the day because the rates were going up. Deals were harder to pencil. In that rate environment, going from
Yep,
three
I
four
get it.
percent to really high. Everybody wanted way too much money for their
Hmm.
facility.
Hmm.
Yeah, got it. So I made the hard pivot, and then we had our daughter was born. Well, my wife was pregnant at the end of 23 and then gave birth in 24, and so I was like, "Oh man, I need some money like today."
These
And
kids are not cheap, man. I get it.
dude, oh man, the hospital bills and the diapers, they are very expensive. So, ended up like, hey, I need some money quick. Storage wholesale deals, they're larger, but they take a lot more time to put
Correct.
together. And so I was like, go back to what I know, make some money really quick. And then for the last like 2.5 years, I've been reflecting. Basically, the 2.5 years, I've like kind of taken my eyes off of storage, and trying to build this acquisition machine
Yep.
where,
Yep.
it can run without me, and it can, but I find I always get sucked back into it, right? And
Man.
yeah, not very
Oh,
fun. And so
man,
hiring, and I went through a bunch of hires. I counted up. I've been through like 7 different acquisitions and some dispo people in there, and just trying to hire and scale. And yeah, it's just been
Yeah, man, I was shaking my head and kind of smirking because I know exactly. I got to the point where my team grew to 9 people, and I had at one point 2 acquisitions people, a transaction coordinator, a disposition, and then you find that somebody leaves or it doesn't quite work out, and you're always like, it's like you're one person away from stepping back into a role that you work so hard to get out of. And then obviously as the business grows and as you quote unquote scale, as you know, what tends to happen is your margins don't increase. At least I don't want to speak for you, but for me, the margins start going the wrong way. And it's like, okay, what am I really doing here? I found that I was working more just to keep the team paid, the lights on. And I was like, for me, I just got to the decision, Zach, that I was just like, I'm sorry, Nick, that I was just like, hey, this is not the kind of business that I want to build. It just doesn't align with my vision and my goals. You said something that I wrote down, and if you see me looking down, I'm just taking notes on our conversation. You said in 2022, it sounds like you had already made the decision that you wanted out of wholesaling.
Yeah.
You guys had the baby, and so you realized, okay, I need to generate some cash, so let me go back. Here's a question I have for you. What is the opportunity cost of delaying the decision as it relates to your storage business? In other words, let me ask it a different way. If you continue to go down the path of working inside the wholesaling operation to get to the point where hopefully someday you can step out of that seat, what's the opportunity cost of not moving forward and progressing on storage?
Oh, not moving store, basically freedom, really what it comes down to, or always being tied to going and chasing the next deal.
Right.
Really.
And you arrived at that conclusion, I think, a lot quicker than a lot of people did, and a lot quicker than I did. It took me years to get to the point where I'm like, I just need to like rip the Band-Aid. So the question for that I have for you then is, how much money would you need to be bringing in? Forget about the how. We'll talk about the how in a moment, but how much money would have to come in order for you to feel like, hey, I can just shut this down like a light switch if I wanted to?
For personal or like business wise, on what overhead I have for business?
Give me both.
Well, so like my overhead expenses right now personally are like around 7,800 a month.
Okay.
And then business wise, we've cut down on a lot of stuff and a lot of subscriptions and a lot of unnecessary stuff. At one point we were spending $25,000 a month, including marketing and all that stuff combined on the business, just the business side, and then, but now we're down to like, if I cut all of the single family marketing and I'm down to like $7,000-ish.
Okay. So let's just call it 15 grand a month that you would need coming in. So what is that, 180? I think if my math is right off the top of my head, about 180 grand a year.
Yeah.
Sounds right? Okay. How many storage deals have you wholesaled in your career?
Done 5.
Okay. What's the total amount of net profits, like pure net? What's the total net that you've generated off of those? I think you said 5 storage deals that you've wholesaled. While you're looking that up, Nick, one thing that I want to, because my goal here isn't to steer you in a particular direction. I'm asking these questions because it may make sense for, like, there might be a few levers you can pull in the wholesaling operation so that you can step out, or it could make a lot of sense for you to just do a 180 and just pivot completely. So I don't have an agenda here. I don't have a horse in the race per se, other than to help you arrive at the conclusion based on what you share with me. So I think it's important that you know that.
Net was 100 grand on those. Okay. One of them didn't make. It was some bad financials. We ended up just selling it and not making any money on it. But so I kind of take that one out of the equation.
Okay, so fair to say you're averaging about 20. If we take that out, you're averaging 25 grand a deal.
Net, yeah, yes. Okay. Now I'm selling off. I'm having somebody else sell it for me, or taking a portion of it. Like the gross on those was 287.
That sounds more like what I was
Yeah.
expecting to hear, just because I've wholesaled 3 storage deals.
Yeah.
My smallest one was 25, but that was 50% of a $50,000 wholesale fee. So really, my fees have been 50, 99, and 150. Now,
Yeah.
just because that's a small sample size, it's only 3 deals, that doesn't mean that that's representative of every storage wholesale deal you're going to do. But generally speaking, I don't know anybody, I can't think of anybody that I know that's wholesale the storage facility for less than 20, 25 grand.
Yeah. Yeah, this one was 55,000, 60,000, 72,000, and 100,000.
Okay, there you go. So where my brain goes, Nick, is if we're trying to fill about 180, let's just round it up to a $200,000 gap. My question for you is, if you were to devote the time and energy that you're spending inside of your wholesaling operation to storage, and as you know, in the course of marketing for storage opportunities for you guys to buy and build your portfolio, you're going to come across opportunities that don't quite fit your buy box, and then you can wholesale those.
Yeah.
How much time are you spending right now on the wholesaling business? Is it full time? Is it 30 hours a week? Is it
Oh, wholesaling. I mean, I do it full time. Whether yeah, I mean, it's full time. Yeah.
okay? What is it about shutting down, like just turning the lights off, that scares you? Where's the friction, or where's the hesitation when it comes to just like, if you think about, hey, I'm just gonna like turn this thing off over the next 30 days, I'm gonna wind it down.
We have an office, which I mean you can still use that, right? An office, and then you've got one of the gals is our kind of transaction coordinator and kind of operations a little bit, and so paying her, her salary.
Okay. And how much is her salary?
3,000 a month plus $500 per deal closed.
Okay. But the overhead right now, if you're not closing any deals, it's 36 grand a year, 3,000.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. Before you keep going, is this somebody that you want to grow with and that you see as a long-term part of your team?
Yeah, I love her. She's a good,
Okay.
she's a good lady. I mean, I'm trying to. That was the other thing, is like trying to figure out, okay, if we're not closing deals, like where else could she fit in, or what else could she do, that sort of a thing.
And that, because I don't know that you answered my question, by the way, because you said you love her. I think you said she's a good, which is fantastic. That tells me you care about her, and that's amazing. So I would love to figure out a role, help you figure out is there a seat on the bus if you decided to pivot and focus 100% on storage. The big picture, and I think the undercurrent here for me, Nick, from this side of the conversation, right, and it's always easier for me than when you're in it, and believe me, I get that. I asked you at the beginning of this conversation, I said, what's the opportunity cost? And the word you used was freedom. So the longer that what I'm hearing is delay the inevitable, the longer you're pushing out what you really want, and where I feel your heart is, or where your goals are aligned. I feel like the longer you try to fix this business in terms of, hey, maybe fix is not the right word, but try to get it to a point where you're going to be completely out. I don't know that you're ever going to get there unless you just make some real wholesale changes and just double down and go all in on that. And that is not going to happen overnight.
Right. 100%.
So if you've arrived at the conclusion that, hey, I no longer want to do this, my heart's not in it, I don't know that I have the energy, the bandwidth, or nor do I want to. And those are my words, not yours. But if you feel that, to me, the decision becomes, how do we unwind this over the course of the next 30, 60, 90 days? And I don't want to arbitrarily just set a deadline that doesn't feel right for you, but I wouldn't be thinking 6, 12 months out, because that's, again, you're just pushing out what you really want further, and you're getting further away from what you want. I would rather, the closest point from A to B is whatever's going to take you there, right? A straight line usually. I don't want you to have to go zigzag to just delay the inevitable. How does that sound and feel for you? Like, are you at the point where you're like, I know I want to wind this down, it's just
Oh yeah.
how?
I've already been winding it down too, honestly. I've already kind of I got back from an event and a storage event, and I was like, what am I doing with my life? Like, what the fuck, That like kind of got me all wound up for, like, yeah, just one of those things where I've it was kind of a blessing in disguise because the day that my wife went in to go give birth, like 6 weeks ago,
Mhm.
my acquisitions guy, he let me know, like, hey, I'm gonna leave and I'm gonna go do my own thing the same day. And I was
Let me
like,
guess, you felt relief?
um,
Oh no,
I
this
was
was the day that you gave birth. The day your wife gave birth.
this was like my wife was getting induced, and so she was going in. So then it was like, well, thanks for telling me. That's a great day to tell tell me. First, I was ticked off, but and then after that, yeah, it was pretty much I was relieved because he wasn't performing the way that he really needed to be, and so yeah, that's the other thing is like I've spent a ton of money on leads, and there's not the return,
Oh man.
right? Because I've trained and had a lot of turnover and all this stuff, and so um yeah, that's the other aspect. So it was a relief, but then I was like, do I want to go hire another person? Not really. I don't want to go through that whole song and dance again. And then just trying to like we started winding down some marketing, just
Yeah.
getting rid of some stuff. So like subscriptions and this and that. So yeah.
You've started to rip the band-aid. You just haven't ripped it off yet fully.
Yeah. What the biggest thing is like I said, I went through multiple acquisitions people, and looking back, I did a poor job of training and onboarding them, or I really, looking back, hired the wrong person.
It's probably a
And
combination of both.
both, yeah. And so I've spent money on PPL, which is a very expensive marketing channel.
Yeah, over $100 a lead.
More like two to three
Three
hundred.
hundred.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so I've left with, you know, debts that we have deals. Like you have to do deals, but then if stuff's not closing,
Yep.
you're still left with a credit card bill.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm at, where it's like I still need to pay this stuff off
Right.
quickly. And so do I jump in the seat, do some single family deals, or do I just do a couple, larger um storage deals? Do I've got like 3,000 leads in the system. Can I work the leads in there, get a few deals? Also, like for immediate cash today, and then have a storage facility wholesale deal where it can chunk down a big portion of that. That's where I'm like in limbo of like I still have debt obligations that I have to pay off and make.
How much? Like, what are your monthly debt obligations?
Monthly? That is a great question.
Yeah, it's always help when we have the data. A friend of mine who, in some cases, was a mentor at times. He always says data, not drama. So, like, when you have the data, what happens is that you gain visibility into the business,
Yeah.
and that's why it's so important to track those metrics and those key performance indicators. And so, if that's why I ask you the questions about like, hey, what's your monthly overhead, the salary, because if we're clear on those figures, we can reverse engineer it to figure out, okay, there's multiple ways you can pay that off or have that money. What makes the most sense for you right now based on where you're at?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, what are the monthly? So two questions: what's the monthly debt obligation that you're paying, and then what's the total balance that if you could, call it and pay it off right now, it would be wiped.
Well, I've got a line of credit that already had some revolving debt on it. That's like it's got some houses on it as well, but then a portion of it was used for marketing. So I'm actually going through and like working out those figures right now.
Okay.
But
Once you get that number, I think once we have all the facts, we can then start to dissect path A, path B, because I think what I heard you say, Nick, was we have about 3,000 leads in the CRM. Do I dive in and just do those and focus on that? Is it a hybrid? Do I do that and focus on wholesaling some storage deals?
So there's 74,000 worth of different. That's personal and credit and like business credit cards.
So a total of 74 grand?
Yeah, it was 74, 33, 8.
Okay. And that's personal plus business.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Right now, if you don't mind me asking, do you have anything in reserves or anything, emergency fund, anything like that?
I have. Well,
And by the way, if you're not, you don't have to say the exact number, but just
I have ran low. So that was the other thing. I've ran low on like extra cash that I've had because what happened was my acquisitions guy, he contracted not so great of deals, and so then I'm forced to either wholesale them or flip them. And so I'm winding down and like selling off a wholesale deal, another flip, another couple deals. We were gonna do a wholesale, but then ended up wholesaling it, thankfully. So all of these flips have went over budget. There's one that went over budget like 25-30,000. Another one went over, it's not selling, all this different stuff. So
are you going to be losing money on those flips?
no, I'll make some money.
You'll make some money? Okay. But still, you're carrying that right now, obviously, and you don't know when it's going to sell.
Yeah, one's contracted to sell. We'll make like 20 grand, and then I'll get my 25-30 grand back here like mid-June. Okay. And then there's another deal that I've got that's coming back we'll make like 6 grand after it's all said and done. And then there's another deal that's a wholesale deal that we just bought that we're putting back on the market that we'll probably make like 40 on. So, yeah.
If I were in your shoes, and I'm not, my role is not to tell you, hey, Nick, do this, don't yet. But
yeah, that's not about the call. I'd like
yeah, man, look, if I were in your shoes, I would cut the cord. I wouldn't pick up any more fix and flips.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I'm not doing
like,
no.
Okay, because every time you do a fix and flip, it just keeps you tied to the business that much longer, and now you're tied to a project for the next 6 to 9 months or however long it might take, depending on the rehab. So I would cut the cord. I would be very, very cautious and picky on which deals you want to wholesale. Like, it's got to be ones that you're going to be able to move quickly.
Yeah, this one, it's a 55 and old. It was a 55 and older community. Literally needs nothing. Brand new bathrooms, LVP, beautiful place. Bought it for 200. We're listing it for 270.
Okay.
And we spent $500, and that was it.
Got it. This is how I'm going to help you arrive at the conclusion, because I think what you shared maybe 5-10 minutes ago is that you kind of feel stuck or in limbo as to like, how do you generate the cash you need in order to walk over the bridge that you're now starting to build from wholesaling to storage?
Yep.
And the good news for you, brother, is that there's several paths you can take. I think you said you got about 3,000 leads in your CRM. You're experienced, you're successful, you know how to do deals. So if you really wanted to, you could put that hat on and you could go do some deals, okay? You can do a hybrid of that and start to focus on some lead gen on the storage side. The great news is you and I have a lot of mutual friends in the storage space. You have now me, you have by extension our Storage Wins community, people you know in different storage Facebook groups. You've wholesaled more storage deals than most people. Like, it's gonna take time. That's not gonna happen in the next 30 days. But if you leaned in, you could probably wholesale at least a couple facilities by the end of the year.
Yeah, I agree, yeah.
No question about it, and that's probably being conservative. The third option is not the hybrid, but just focus on storage. Now, let me give you some ideas as it relates to your single family business, because you can put on that hat and do the deals. When I thought about that, I wanted to puke in my mouth. I was done. I don't hear that you're there. You might be, I don't know, but I'm not hearing that you're I got to the point, Nick, that I was done I was burnt. I'm like, it costs me longer to stay in it, even if I make money, than just ripping the Band-Aid off. So what I did was I worked out an agreement with a local wholesaler in South Florida that I had a really good relationship with, that I've done a lot of business with. And she bought my leads. She bought my motivated seller leads, which I think I had, I don't know, it was like between 4,000 and 6,000 leads in my database, something like that. So she bought the leads. Now, admittedly, what I got paid on that was like an average wholesale fee. It wasn't anything that I'm like, wow, I just knocked it out of the park. Like, so put that in perspective.
Right. Yeah.
However, I worked out 10% of any future deals that came from that. And that generated probably, I'm guessing, because this was a handful of years ago, I'm guessing that probably generated another 15 to 25 grand.
Okay.
Okay. So now that is going to be the path of least resistance for you, in terms of like, it's got to be somebody you trust. It's got to be somebody that has operations, like they have a system, their follow-up is on point. You know, they're going to nurture the leads, follow up, take care of them. So you kind of have to have the perfect storm. And I don't know if you have a person in mind or two. However, that's going to really put a cap on the compensation you're going to get. Okay. So I don't know how much it's possible for you to generate from going that path, but it's an option.
Right.
The second option is if you don't want to throw up in your mouth and you like doing single family deals, and you'll tell me in a second if how you feel about this option, is I think it's a great path to say, hey, I'm just going to put on the acquisition hat and I'm going to focus on wholesaling 2, 3, 4 deals so that I can at least get out of the debt. But what I'm asking myself is, what is keeping me tied to the residential business? And what is the quickest path to take care of that solution? So if you told me, hey, Alex, what's keeping me stuck is the fact that I have this debt I have to pay of 75 grand, plus my team member, I pay her 3 grand a month and I kind of have to figure out what to do with her, then I'm telling myself, okay, well, if I was going to generate that amount of cash to alleviate those challenges, how many wholesale deals would I need to do based on my average profit per transaction? So what's your average profit there in your market on a wholesale?
Overall, it's about like 16, 17,000.
Okay, 16, 17,000. So you're talking probably a handful of deals.
Yeah.
A handful. Now, how many deals, for context and perspective, how many deals in the last 12 months? Like, do you do a deal a month, 3 deals a month, every other month?
We're doing,
You could just give me like a round number.
it's 17 deals last year.
17. Okay, so let's call it about 2 deals a month that you're averaging essentially. And so you're generating 32 grand, let's call it on average, in wholesale fees. What percentage of that 32 grand comes off the top to pay your team?
15% for acquisitions, 15% for dispo, and then
That's a big chunk.
it is, yeah.
That's a pretty big chunk.
Yeah.
If you did, so that means you're actually
If I'm doing the acquisitions, right, then it's only 15%.
correct.
So that's
Do you like acquisitions?
I don't mind it. I this last week I've been doing single family stuff. I've been doing a mix of like calling single family stuff and talking to storage owners, and I would much rather talk to storage owners. Like,
You and I both.
I'm really good at it, as far as like talking to sellers, but sometimes I'm like, I've heard the same old song and dance, and it's just like, whoa. So whenever you're like, there's been times where I'm just like, I cannot talk to these types of people anymore,
Yeah, I understand. If you decided to focus on putting on your acquisitions hat, how many wholesale deals do you think you could do wearing the acquisitions hat if you focused on it in the next 3 months, with the not taking on any additional marketing, just working the leads you currently have in your CRM?
Yeah.
How many conservatively? Like, give me the conservative number. Like worst case scenario, I think I'm doing, is it 1 deal in 3 months? Is it 4? Is it 5? Like, what do you think Nick could do as the acquisitions agent?
If I focused all my energy on that, because I've got a lead manager too. That's the other thing. So she can do follow up and set appointments, and so she's also cross trained. I've originally trained her on storage, So she's been kind of splitting her time. I would say 2 deals a month. I would say.
You could do
I
2 deals a month.
I think it's hard to say because it's from follow up alone. Like new leads, I can go in there, right? They're hot, they're ready, and I can contract them like really fast. But trying to bring that up on old follow up, I hate going through and calling old leads.
You
You
and I
know,
both. Yeah.
I like having an odd opportunity that, if the appointment's set for me, I can close it, right? No matter, like, that's what I'm great at. So it's tough to say. Like, I know for sure a deal a month, depending on the lead quality. A lot of these are, inbound leads, and so after so long, like, you can't get a hold of them. They're dead. They've already sold, whatever. But
Well,
there is definitely money in the follow up for sure.
well, check this out. If you think you can do 2, worst case 1. So we're somewhere between 3 and 6 deals over the course of the next 90 days. Let's be conservative and say you can do 5 deals. At an average of $16,000 a deal, that's $80,000 in wholesale fees. And if we're going to take off 15% of that to go to your dispo agent, I think you said, your dispo team member?
Yeah.
Okay, so you've generated 68 grand. Now I realize you have your lead manager, but that you're probably not paying a ton there. So the point is, you could generate, if you leaned in, you could generate between $60,000 and $70,000. I think relatively conservatively in the next 90 days. Now, if we were going to compare that to what you could do with storage, what's the likelihood that you could do 1 or more storage wholesale deals in the next 90 days?
Probably pretty good.
You think you could do 1? You think you could do 2, 3? Or what do you think?
I think I could do 1 to 2, I would say. Let's call it conservatively. If it's 1, right, like, and it's a $60,000, $70,000 assignment fee, then the biggest thing is, like, that I found is timing, right?
And that's the thing right there.
Like, if I call them once and they're like, it's very, very, very infrequent. There's like, yeah, I want to sell for,
Right.
a cheap
Right.
price. But you got to build the relationship and
100%. And you probably have significantly more motivated single family seller leads than you do storage leads.
yeah.
Right? Look, for me, based on what I'm hearing, I think the quickest path for you to generate the kind of income and cash that you're needing in the next 90 days to give you the freedom and confidence to just turn off the lights and wind this thing down. Because the office, to your point, you can use. You're a team member. I don't know anything about your team member, but there's a chance that there's a pretty good seat for that person on your storage business, potentially. Same thing with your lead manager if you train that person for storage. So really the only thing I've heard, and tell me if I'm missing something, the only thing I've heard that's keeping you tied to this business is this 74 grand in debt between business and personal that you have?
Yeah, there's some money that's on a line of credit that I got to pay off too. And then I guess the only other thing would be, like, my brother does dispositions as well, and so, like, trying to structure, he wants to do storage as well. He's on the same page.
Okay.
And so, like, figuring out a role for him to be able to either, like, I'm not sure exactly whether it's acquisitions or if it's helping out operationally or underwriting, or like what that would look like for him as well. So
If I'm in your shoes, and I was, I don't want to say I wouldn't worry about it. It just wouldn't be the first problem I'm focused on solving right now.
yeah.
Because I think you have a little bit of time to figure out that transition plan. And something tells me, my gut tells me, you care about people and you want to see people win, but sometimes that could be to the detriment of the business. And I think if I'm reading the tea leaves from this conversation, I think in your heart of hearts when a person fits in a particular role. And when you say things like, I don't know where this, like, you know your brother, obviously. You know his strengths and his weaknesses.
Yeah.
If I pressed you, you probably know if that person, if your brother fits in a certain role or if he doesn't, but you're trying to like force a square into a circle.
Same thing, kind of. I would say like with Christy. But I mean, really, like, yeah, I think you're right. As far as like the detriment, I try to help people out.
Yeah, and I get it, man, and I love that, and I think it's important to be charitable. I just think it's important not to be charitable with your business, meaning at the expense of the business, because then ultimately it ends up hurting not only you, but it actually also hurts them because they're in the wrong seat.
Mm.
And I can't tell you, I that would be a whole nother conversation about, in my heart of hearts, team members I knew that weren't, and it's my fault. It's not their fault. I'm the one that hired them. I'm the one that trained them. I'm the one that put them in that role. That was always my fault, 100% of the time. And I knew it wasn't going to work out. And I just let it go and go and go. And then I look back after they left because it was inevitable they were going to leave. And I look back and I'm like, man, look at the opportunity cost. And one key question I always ask myself, Nick, is knowing what I know now about that person, would I hire them for the same role? And that's a tough one to answer because if you say, if it's anything short of heck yeah, chances are you failed them in some regards. And that could be training, that could be the wrong seat, but they're just not the right person for that seat. And again, that's a whole nother conversation. I'm happy to have it with you. But right now, I would be focused on trying to determine, because the worst place to be is stuck in limbo. It's kind of like sales. Like you want the person to be, it's a heck yes or it's a no. But I'll think about it, the maybes, like that doesn't help anybody. Yeah. That's the worst place to be in. And right now, that's the equivalent. Right now, you're stuck in, man, what do I do? Do I jump back into acquisitions? Do I just shut this down and focus on wholesale, on storage? But if I do that, I have this debt and I got my team members and like, you're weighed down by all these decisions. And I think what's super important to do is to just simplify things and focus on what is the lead domino that knocks everything else down. If I'm in your shoes, I'm asking myself, what's the lead domino that I need to focus all of my time, energy, and attention on today that makes every other decision easier once that gets figured out? So I think it's good that you're thinking about your brother in the dispo seat. And I think you said Christy and like, where do they land? I think it's healthy to have those types of conversations, but that's not where I'm putting most of my energy and attention on at the very moment. Not because I don't care about them, but right now I have this debt and this is what's primarily keeping me tied to the business.
Right.
And I'm going to pressure test that assumption right now. And you tell me, if I sent you a wire, let's just call it 100 grand. If I sent you a wire for 100 grand to satisfy and you had to pay off your debt, the 74 grand plus the line of credit, and I don't know how much is on the line of credit. Let's just, for simple math, say 100 grand would cure everything.
Mm-hmm.
What decision would you make about your wholesaling business if I gave you $100,000 right now and you didn't have to pay it back?
Oh yeah, I'd shut it down.
There you go. There you go. So the fact that you have clarity about that tells me, let's put our head down and get to work to generate 100 grand in the next 90 days so that you don't keep putting off this decision you've already made. You've already made the decision, you just haven't executed and followed through on it. Did you hear that last part or did it cut out?
No, it makes a lot of sense, for sure.
And to me, I think you can go in either direction. I think the cleanest path is to double down on your, and this is going to be odd coming from a storage guy, but because of your current setup, unless you tell me, Alex, I really don't want to do that. Like, I'm not going to be in it. I'm going to half-ass it. My heart's not in it. Like, if you told me that, I would say, brother, double down on finding storage opportunities and wholesaling them. By the way, selfishly, I would love that because I have a hungry army of storage winners looking for deals. So I could probably find you a buyer. With that said, you got 3,000 leads in your system. I mean, if the thought of working those for the next 90 days and just focusing on that, as long as like that doesn't make your stomach turn, I'd probably lean on that because to me, that's a quicker path to a payday than banking on wholesaling a storage facility, which I mean, it's possible to get these deals closed in under 90 days, but is it likely?
It's tough.
Probably. It's tough. It can happen, and we're talking 90 days from today.
I know, yeah, for sure. I 100% tough.
That's assuming you had a deal today.
I know. So
And you don't. You got to work these, so you're probably talking 45, 60 days.
Right.
So I just don't want you to. I don't want you to continue down a path that you've already decided isn't for you. But you're on that path because you don't have clarity about what's the first step. And to me, from everything you've shared with me here, I don't know that your acquisition person is or isn't the right fit for the storage business. But if you felt like that person, you could step into that role, that's probably the path that I would go. Let me pause. What are you hearing? I see you kind of processing. Is there any friction that's coming up as you hear that?
No, I mean, it's all things that I've definitely considered or thought about. There is a guy, so like I've thought about, can I sell the leads or do a partnership deal?
Or both?
Or both. I have a couple people in mind where I've already talked with where they would work the leads and then give me 30% of the deal. Does it make sense to give them those leads and then also me work them at the same time?
I think it would make sense as long as you disclose that.
Right.
I wouldn't do it behind their back. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
Now does that what's the word I'm looking for? Is it disincentivize? Yeah. Does that disincentivize them that you're handing them the leads, but then you're gonna essentially compete to try to get the deal before they do? Like, I don't know. I don't know.
I can't make that many calls.
Yeah. And I think you let them know that. I mean, look, the only reason you're considering doing that is because something tells me you don't want to step back into acquisitions.
No, I do not want to do it. No, for sure.
Okay.
That's why, I mean, I've had plenty of, there's a reason why I'm like, I think I hired too quickly, right? And it was like, just throw somebody in the seat because I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
It's like, I've had enough of it. I've done.
Well, Nick, look, there is a time as an entrepreneur, as an investor, that you're in a particular season that you got to roll up the sleeves and sweep the floors.
Yep.
And you can do it, and you can white knuckle your way through it. It really depends on the urgency you have to get this debt paid off and how much of the capital or the cash that you need to generate in the next 90 days. Because if you told me you had a little bit of breathing room, then maybe the hybrid is, provided that you trusted this person, they knew how to close deal, they were honest, they have an integrity, they're not going to, you don't have any sense or doubt or thought that they're going to screw you. Provided you have that right person, you could give them the leads. 30% to you is a pretty decent split with doing no work.
Right.
And then just focus all of your efforts on storage.
Yeah, then it's just one of those things where it'd be a bank on that person.
I wouldn't.
No, I would to pay my debt. No, I would not.
I would not. If you do it, I think you're better served with the mindset that you're getting nothing from that. And I wouldn't.
Bonus. Right.
I would view that as like icing on the cake, and I wouldn't tell them this, obviously. Yeah. But I would not bank on receiving $1 from that joint venture. And then now you put the onus on yourself, like, hey, that $100,000 I want to generate, I'm just going to put my head down. And like, all I'm doing is focused on wholesaling 1 or 2 storage deals in those 90 days. Yeah. Or whatever time frame you want to give yourself. But I think that sense of urgency is healthy.
For sure.
Because if you go to bed at night and you're like, oh, I think this person, I don't know what their name is, but I think Joe probably closed 2 deals from it, worst case, and 30%, and you already start counting that money and banking on it, and then it doesn't happen. Now you've set yourself up for disappointment, and you can't control what they're going to do. And you and I know that we can't control if we close a deal. We can only control the daily, weekly, monthly actions that lead to a deal.
100%.
How many deals do we get under contract that never make it over the finish line for A or B reason? So I would not bank on any money from that joint venture.
Yeah.
In other words, if you're going to make that decision, be okay that you just gave them the list.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah.
That's how I would view that.
Would you do any sort of extra to be able to have some reserves, right? Like pay off the debts and then put some reserves back in, or should I make the goal for that?
I would absolutely make the goal, not the bare minimum of just paying the debt.
Right.
Not to mention that debt might climb between now and 90 days. Right? So I would pad it. I would pad it plus some reserve. And the great thing about the business we're in, Nick, is that it's not like we need a ton of volume to generate the kind of cash that we're talking about.
Yeah, you don't
right? Like we're not selling trinkets here. Like
it's 50 grand you can do doing in a deal.
Dude, you could do a couple of deals and just be totally out of this.
Yeah.
It could potentially be one big deal. Maybe it's 3 smaller deals or mid-sized deals. But it's nothing that if you told me, hey, I'm going to put my head down and focus on this, especially with your knowledge and experience, I'm betting on you and twice on Sunday. But if you tell me flat out, hey, I really don't want to step back into acquisitions, and no, I don't want to say you're going to half-ass it, but like it's just not where you want to be. You either suck it up and white knuckle it and do it because you know there's an end in sight, and you give yourself a deadline, you draw a line in the sand and you say, hey, come hell or high water, I'm shutting off the lights on this day, regardless of the outcome. You either white knuckle it and do it that way, or you don't. You work out this JV with this person and you put your head down and you focus on storage.
So is it a date or is it a revenue goal?
You get to decide that.
Okay.
You know how how you operate. For some people, the date is kind of like they're back against the wall and they're going to work to do it. And then for other people, it's like, hey, the date is not as important. I'm not ready to make this transition until I hit this particular revenue goal. And I would, if it were me, I'd make it a revenue goal.
Yeah.
Because the revenue goal, I know myself, I'm going to work that much harder and smarter to get there. What if I don't need 90 days? What if it's 60 days? Or what if I need 120 days? But, so I'm making it based on tied to the outcome that you want, and the outcome you want is a certain amount of capital. I'm probably making it a revenue goal. And let's not pretend you couldn't do both. You could certainly do both. I mean, we've all created SMART goals, right, that are specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, or realistic, and then timely. So I think the right answer is a combination. How many storage leads do you have in your CRM like today?
Probably like legit leads that we've talked to, had good, decent conversations that they're interested in selling.
Yeah.
Probably probably close to 200, maybe 250, something like that.
Look, I don't have a crystal ball. There might be a deal in there.
Probably so.
There probably is. Now, the question is that deal happening in the next 90 days? That we don't really have any control over. But have you been working those opportunities, or those things have been sitting there cold for a while?
Some of them once I got back, I started working them, and then a lot of them have been cold for a while. Like I haven't touched them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does the thought of putting on your acquisitions hat to go call storage owners energize and excite you more?
Oh yeah, it's way more fun for sure. But then again, right? Like it kind of sucks because even if I find a great deal that I really want to buy myself, I have to wholesale it because I need the money today.
Well, I would challenge you to think about it a little bit differently.
Okay.
My mindset is we get to do things we don't have. Whenever we say we have to, there's an element of like victim mentality, and I'm not accusing you of having a victim mentality.
You're right. That's fair. You got it.
But you're saying, oh, I have to do. Well, you don't have to do anything, right? You could take it down if you want, or I did this on my first wholesale deal. In fact, that was in 2021, and to this day, myself and 2 friends, we still own 15% equity in that deal. So we got a $99,000 wholesale fee at closing, and we retained 15% equity. Now, is that going to work for every buyer? It's got to be the right situation. That may or may not work out in your case, but it's a good problem to have, Nick, to look at a deal and say like, man, this thing is, and by the way, if it's such a great deal that you want to buy, that might mean the wholesale fee is going to be
really good and wipe out all the debt.
Yeah, man. Like my mentality is there's always a great deal around the corner. Now we might have to go through a lot of opportunities to get there, but I just always have the mindset there's always going to be a deal out there.
It's an abundance mentality. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not like the fake abundance mentality. It's like I genuinely feel there's always an opportunity out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't control when I'm going to find it or how quickly it's going to happen, but I know there's a deal out there. If I put my head down and I focus on it, like I'm confident I can find the right opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that's the mindset I would encourage and challenge you to have. But look, I want to, based on everything we've discussed, do you have a little bit more clarity about what might be the best path moving forward for you?
Yeah. For sure.
What is that? What do you think could be the best path for you?
I think what I need to do is go through, I need to, would you recommend like giving the list to multiple people, like to increase your odds of trying to go get it, like have a, a 25 or 30% cut?
I wouldn't go give the list to 10 people.
Right. Yeah.
But would I give it to 2, maybe 3 people? Yes, and I would also disclose it.
Mm-hmm.
I would also disclose it. I think it's more important to find the right person. My magic wand scenario, and I went through this exercise and I narrowed it down to like 3 or 4 people. Mm-hmm. It's got to be somebody I can trust, because no matter how great they are, if I can't trust them, then what's the whole point of, diligence?
I gotta give you the fee.
Yeah, like it's got to be somebody I have a relationship with that I trust. Number 2, it's got to be somebody competent that has the infrastructure that can handle. In my case, I was giving them a lot of leads, but like I wanted to know with certainty that they could plug those leads into their system and they could work them, or they had a competent team member that could work them and follow up. Because it does you no good to give them the leads and they do nothing with it, or it just sits there. They're not being followed up with. They're probably not going to close a deal that way.
For sure.
And so for me, those were the 2 big boxes I wanted to check off. Do I trust them? I have a relationship, and do they have the ability, the capability, the competency to follow up and get these things done? So if you have multiple people like that, yeah, I would.
Okay.
I would. I do think you increase your odds. Now, I would make sure that doesn't dissuade them from wanting to work them. So in other words, I would make sure to get buy-in that, hey, if you're going to take this list, I need to know, I need to have your word that you're going to work these as if they were your own leads.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I think doing that, increasing the likelihood of trying to get paid without doing anything. Would you sell the leads and then try to do that, or you think?
I probably wouldn't. I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze. Yeah. I mean, what could you realistically sell the leads for? Best case scenario.
I don't know. Yeah, it's like whenever you buy a car brand new off the lot, they depreciate.
Yeah. I mean, let's say could you get 10 grand for them?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe
10 grand.
I mean, look, it's 10 grand. That's a lot of money. I'm not saying, but is that gonna move the needle in your mood right now?
No.
It'll help, but
yeah.
I think the 30% off of one deal, it might not be 10 grand.
Right.
But
a couple 10 grand pops, there's 3, 6, 9, 12, yeah. 4, yeah. So I'm thinking like doing that, having some sort of split structure. As much as I really don't want to, doing some single family deals for today, and then at the same time probably going through my old follow-up list of self-storage facilities that are in the system already and checking back with them and seeing, who's closest to be able to make a deal, right? And then I think a mix of small deals today, and then I can't bank on it, right? I have to plan as if no big deal happens. But if a big deal happens and I make 50, 100 grand and wipes out a bunch of it and puts a bunch of reserves, great. That's icing on the cake. But I think in my mind I've been like trying to bank on that, where I'm like, I'm gonna only go after storage, and then I'm only gonna go after the big whale, right? And then you're hunting and hunting and hunting, and you get discouraged, and you're like, I still got bills, and I just
That's
don't.
right. And then the bills keep piling up, and then all of a sudden you find yourself up a creek without a paddle. Like, man, there's nothing wrong with the base hits and the doubles.
For sure.
You know, if you go up there swinging for the fences every time, like, yeah, you might knock one out, but you're probably going to strike out a bunch too.
Yeah, for sure.
You know? So, the good news is I'm hearing from this side of the conversation and the microphone, you got options, and sometimes that could be a negative because it keeps you stuck longer. My challenge for you is to, like, I feel like you already know the path. You just got to like decide and commit. Hey, this is what I'm doing. Because I think you stand to lose more by indecision than by making the wrong decision.
Yeah.
So right now you're stuck in limbo. My gut tells me you're kind of strongly considering a hybrid. Like, you'd like your cake and you want to eat it too.
I would like to, but maybe that's just not a good option right now. Maybe it's just commit to one thing.
Look, you could, how many people in mind do you have that check those boxes? You trust, they have integrity, they have the systems, the ability, and the capability to get these deals done.
2 in mind, maybe a third, kind of iffy on the integrity.
I would, so I personally, out. Like, I'd eliminate it. I wouldn't entertain that. Like, eliminate the decision fatigue. Me,
Yeah.
if it's not like a heck yes, forget about it. That's my strong opinion. I'd narrow it down to those two people, potentially both. Just pick up the phone and have a conversation with them. Hey, here's what I'm thinking. I'm not committing to anything, but if I wanted to do this, what are your thoughts? And I would kind of put it, I wouldn't even propose a structure. I might even put it on
Let them offer something.
yeah, see what they come up with. For all you know, they say, hey, man, we could do 50-50. I'm dead serious.
It's true.
Like,
It's like asking for seller finance terms. You're the bank. You tell me.
yeah. And by the way, for the record, I have done that where I've agreed to 50-50, and I was the one working the opportunities because I had a team. And now, knowing what I know now, would I have done that? No, but I have. And so I'm not sitting here like, suggesting that from a place of greed.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
And I think that scenario would make a lot more sense if it's somebody with a small, lean team. If it's somebody that's got a big team, then they got to eat, right? Like, you don't want the deal to be so lopsided that like it just disincentivizes them, and
They don't want to actually work the lead because, well, it's I got to give away so much.
exactly right. So you want to make sure that they feel good about it. Like, you're not trying to like win the deal here. You're not trying to like pull teeth. It's got to be something that they feel really good about.
Yeah.
That's my suggestion.
Yeah. They feel like they're winning at the end of the day for free.
Either way, I would put the decision or the, hey, here's what I'm thinking. What are your thoughts? And just put it at their doorstep. They might make your decision easy and say, hey, I'm not interested. By the way, I don't know why they wouldn't be, because it's free opportunities. And if they have a system, like, why wouldn't they?
What?
And that's my mindset, especially if you have a relationship with them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's all got to be relationship driven for sure.
Yeah. And then maybe it's worth spending half an hour looking through your CRM, finding the best zip codes where you have buyers, and saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to keep these. Or, hey, here's the whole list, but just so you know, in full transparency, I've held on to these, and I'm also going to work these. Is that going to be a problem?
Yeah.
Like, I'd probably hang on. Like, if I told you, hey, you don't have to like cold call, or you don't have to warm call and cold call these leads, but you got 10, 20 in a hot zip code where you have buyers, and like days on market is really low. There's little to no inventory. I'd hang on to those and I'd work those opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah. Go after those and try to make a I mean, that's the thing is like looking back on it, before our average was like 22.5, and then it kind of went down because we were focusing on shitty areas. Looking back on it, and this there's some deals that are 40,000, 30,000, and then there's some that are 5, right? And you do a ton of work, and looking back, I'm like, well, why was I focused on that area? It was real easy to contract and really hard to sell. It's stupid.
It's one of those levers that I think is so easy that once you identify it, that a lot of wholesalers unfortunately don't do. And that's where the data can help you. It gives you visibility into the business and you know what areas. I'll share this super quick story with you before we wrap. Years ago, this was in 2018. One of the things I tasked my transaction coordinator to do was to go back 24 months, and we ended up calling it the deal autopsy. I had her create, and she was really good at Excel. I had her create a dashboard of all the deals we've closed in a 24-month period. And she dissected it down to like the zip code, the seller's nationality, their motivation for selling, the average profit per transaction, the bedrooms, baths. Like we had all these data points. It's like as if we were data scientists, but we weren't. We were just like make believe. And I'm like, I want to know, like, let's do an autopsy of every deal we've closed in the last 24 months with the goal to spend less on marketing and make more per deal. And dude, the clarity and insight that we got, Nick, from going through that deal autopsy process was, I mean, it was a game changer, dude. It was a game changer. It was amazing. We didn't know this, but there was one particular zip code in South Florida. All of our biggest pops, and what we called a big pop was like anything over 50 grand wholesale fee.
Right.
Which, for context, in South Florida, depending on the year, our average wholesale fees were like between 18 and 22. So basically anything double that, we considered a big pop. 90% of our big pops came from one zip code. And we're like, and it wasn't like one or two, it was like more than a handful. But we didn't, prior to that
area.
dude, so we just tripled down on that area.
Yeah.
We just tripled down on that area. And it was, by the way, it was not the hood, but it was lower income areas that we were able to get these properties so cheap that provided the biggest spread.
Interesting.
Not the hood, but like, C plus areas.
Yeah. That sounds.
So anyway, like I share that with you not to go set you on some like goose chase to.
No, I did that in 2020. That's what I was looking at my deal. Because I went through. I don't know if you're familiar with Chandler Sane, Level Up, REI. They have a program, whatever, and it was a closed deal tracker, and so it was like ranking 1 through 10. How easy was the transaction? How was the dispo? How easy was the TC? The seller situation, the seller age, the bedroom, bathroom, square footage, when it was signed, when it sold, what it sold for, the net, all the stuff, right? And it was like, oh wow, I'm only making 9 grand on average in this area, and then I'm making 30 plus in this area, and it's like, well, let's focus on more of that stuff,
Think about how valuable the data is when you can make decisions like that based on your data. I think it's insanely valuable. So, brother, to put a bow on this, what's been most helpful, useful, or insightful for you? Even if you haven't quite arrived at a conclusion, like where has the fog lifted for you?
Not relying on just the big whale, and then also I would say, confirming my thought of like having other people, work the leads and how to do that, and then just being really, really intentional, setting a date, or we'd kind of done before we kind of went off track. We'd put a smart goal of like doing 15 deals in 6 weeks, and that was our goal. And then, at an average of 15,000, you make 150,000. Perfect. Okay, that gets you out of a pickle, plus some cash, and then the deals that we have coming in. It's like, really what I need to do is refine even more, so where my average is, where I'm not working on crappy deals, I just need to have less single family deals with larger fees.
Yep.
To get me out of the pickle and then anything else is cake, right?
That's right. That's right. Look at the 18 or so deals you closed in 2025. Look at the one with your biggest spreads. See if there's an overlap or a common denominator there. Maybe it's a size house, maybe it's a zip code or a location. What is it about? Maybe you go back 18 months or 24 months. Like, what's the common denominator? And if you are able to work out an agreement with this one or that second person, I would still maybe retain ownership or the ability to work the ones
Yeah.
that, based on your data, have given you the biggest pops.
Yeah. Looking at it, nicer areas in the suburbs. One was 36,000, almost 37,000, 34. Oh, well, that was a hood house. That was 35,000. 47,000, 39,000. That was a nice area, hot area. So,
Nix, you got the data. I think if you spend 15, 20, 30 minutes just analyzing it like you're doing now with me, I would just say, hey, here are the common denominators. Let's go to the CRM. Let's pull that and say, hey, I'm going to start. The thought of worrying the acquisitions hat doesn't thrill me, but for knowing what the data tells me, I'm willing to lean into this for the next 30, 60, 90 days to see what I can make out of it. While you start to shift your efforts to storage, and you simultaneously work something out with these other wholesalers that you trust that have a process and a system that can handle this. That's what I would do.
yeah.
That's what I would do. And then I would just like draw a line in the sands. And then look, sometimes dates are not set in stone. They're written in sand, and you can adjust it if you need to. But I think there's something that it does for you mentally to like be like, hey, I've made this decision. I'm getting on this train, and now it's moving.
Yeah.
And right now you're kind of like half pregnant. You can't be half pregnant. Like, there's no such thing. Like, you're all in or you're all out. And so,
Your time.
dude, you're straddling the fence right now. I need you to get on or get off. You know what I mean?
That's fair. I like that analogy. My wife will like that analogy too.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. By the way, and as a side note, you're gonna feel a certain weight lifted because I did. You're gonna be a better father, better husband, better leader. Like it's gonna have a positive ripple effect in other areas when you're not carrying all this weight. But man, we could do anything for 90 days that we focus on. It's 90 days. You know what I mean? That comes and goes.
Right.
But now, 90 days from now or less, now you can focus on what you really want to focus on, which is aligned with your goals and your vision.
Makes a lot of sense.
So, well, brother, hopefully that was helpful. As a quick side note, I always tend to focus on making more, but there is something to be said for cutting. So keep an eye on your profit and loss. Look at the expenses. It sounds like you've already gotten rid of the subscriptions you don't need. You know, maybe you can shave off a little more there. That's probably not going to be the significant needle mover for you. So I wouldn't focus a lot of my energy there, but I would keep an eye. Like, we got to be good stewards of money. And my faith tells me that if we're not, you're not going to get entrusted more. Right. And so I think that's really important too, is that we just got to be a good steward of what God's given us. And so anyways,
Yep.
what was that?
I said the 3 talents. You gotta be a 5 talent kind of guy.
Yeah. So, well, man, hopefully this was helpful for you. Man, if you're open to it, maybe in 90 days we do a round 2 and you give us it. And if you're up for that, maybe it serves as almost a layer of accountability for you.
That'd probably be a good idea. Yeah, we could do that.
And if you're open to it, man.
90 days from today? Let's see.
What is that, September? June, July, August. Yeah, beginning of September, basically.
September 1st is 90 days from now.
September 3rd, right?
No, it says.
Oh, okay, yeah, September 1st. Okay, yeah, just about. Yeah, that sounds right.
All right.
So I guess, let me ask you this to end. What for sure are you committing to that I can hold you accountable to?
I gotta pay off all my credit card debt for sure.
You get to.
I get to pay it off.
See what I did there?
I know. Have you ever heard of Rise Up Kings at all?
I haven't, no.
Okay, we need to. We could talk about that afterwards. But the victim mentality, and they talk about that. It's like having versus getting and all that stuff. I want to pay off the credit card debt,
You
and
will
then
pay it off.
I'll pay that off, and then the line of credit aspect. I have some deals that are closing. I'll pay that down. It's like after there was let's see.
While you're looking up that data, don't keep, like when you're in a hole, don't keep digging. You know what I mean? And that, like, it's like, well, thanks, Alex. I appreciate the wisdom. Like, that sounds very obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people don't put down the shovel.
There's like another hundred and between what? Well, the properties that I'm going to be paying down, where that I already owe against them, it's like 139,000
Okay.
total. What I'd like to pay it down. Does it have to be? No, it's a revolving line, so I can pay it down, up and down as I go. So
Just remember what got you where you are now. Let's identify the root cause and don't keep making that. I don't want to call it a mistake, but if you're feeling pain, yeah, don't double down on the thing that got you to where you are now if it's not serving you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I'll tell you what. We can figure out a date offline, but here's what I would propose. Labor Day is the 7th.
Okay.
Why don't you and I, and we can firm this up with my assistant, but why don't you and I plan on hopping back on to record on September 9th, 10th, or 11th,
Okay.
which is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That'll be a little bit more than 90 days from now.
Mm-hmm.
And you can report back how it's gone over the last 90 days. And whether you realize it or not, just putting that date on the calendar, knowing that you're coming back on here to like openly share, I think might do something for you.
It's going to for sure.
Okay, good. Good. Are you up for it?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, let's run it. Let's do it. I'll have her send you a calendar invite. We'll find the time one of those 3 days, and you got a bonus of an extra week basically to make it happen.
All right. That sounds good.
Sounds good, man?
I need to go make some calls. That's what I got to do.
You get to make some calls, brother. You get to make some calls.
No, I got an accountability partner now. I get to.
There you go, man. Awesome. Man, look, I want to encourage you as we wrap this, like, man, I know exactly where you're at. I feel like I can speak to you with a level of confidence because I've been in your shoes. I've had these conversations many times, and I've always walked away feeling like, man, I wish others could be a fly on the wall because I think it would help them. And maybe you're watching this and you can relate to Nick. Maybe you've had feelings of like, I feel like I need to go in this direction. Keep in mind, the grass isn't always greener, and entrepreneurs are prone to shiny object syndrome for a reason. In Nick's case, storage is not a shiny object. He owns facilities. He's wholesaled. He knows the business. I think it's actually keeping him further away from what he wants by doubling down on the single family business. But I do think it makes sense for him to roll up the sleeves and sweep the floors. It sounds like we've arrived on a couple different paths that can happen for him to generate the amount of cash he would need to confidently turn off the lights. And so apply that same framework to your life and business. If there's something that's keeping you tied to something you no longer want, ask yourself, what is that unlock? And when I asked Nick that question of, hey, if I wired you 100 grand today, would you make a different decision? He's like, yeah, dude, I just shut this thing down overnight. That gave me everything I needed to know to say, okay, well, let's solve for that problem. So hopefully that conversation helps you in some way, and let us know either in the comments or tag us. And Nick, if people want to connect with you, I don't know if you want to share like your general location. If people want to do deals with you, reach out to you, have a conversation, build a relationship, is there a good place for them to reach you?
Yeah, for sure. We're based out of Kansas City, so We office out of Blue Springs. So our wholesaling operations, which, maybe it'll be shut down by the time you hear this, it's Turning Point Homes. And I got off of social media. I have my admin if you want to follow me. She runs everything, so it's not me responding or talking, but Nick Zachgo on Facebook or Instagram. And then yeah, if you want to reach out to me directly too, my phone number is 816-686-9908. You're more than welcome to give me a call, text me, if you got a deal. Hopefully we'll be selling some more storage deals and doing some more of that stuff in the future. So
Yeah. I have no doubt you will, and my gut tells me that we might work together or collaborate in some way. I don't know what that looks like, but that's what my gut tells me. So
sounds good.
I love it, man. I love it. All right, guys. Well, hey, listen, thanks for being a fly on the wall of this conversation. Nick, I appreciate you for being open to do this because we got connected through our mutual friend, and we've had, I think, maybe a couple conversations. And like, I think it takes a certain level of courage to put yourself out there openly about some challenges, and I admire that. Like, that's not everybody's willing to do that, especially with somebody that admittedly you and I are starting to build a relationship, right? It's not like we've known each other for years. And so I appreciate you thinking of me and just asking me like, hey, I kind of know you've been in these shoes, like what would you do? And then being open to documenting the conversation in hopes that it helps you, and also we can kill two birds with one stone and it can help others as well. So that's the goal here. Make sure you're subscribed, YouTube, the Storage Wins podcast. And if there's anything I can do to help you or serve you, reach out. If you're interested in learning more about the Storage Wins community, storagewins.com/call to schedule a short 10-minute discovery call. And with that said, I will connect with you guys on the next one. Take care, Nick.
Peace.